Teo, for some context, is a streamer slash YouTuber who I quite like, and in his Discord the last day, Hobo, one of his mods, put out an announcement to make some fan art for his birthday the next month. I was planning to do a minifigure version of a bunch of YouTubers at some point anyway, so I figured this was as good a time as any to just jump into it. What makes this a little different to usual, however, is that not only did I recreate the man himself as a minifigure, I also recreated his entire stream room in LEGO too, because why not? Starting with his face print, I used this chap from the Ghostbusters Ecto 1 set as a base because I thought the smirk was pretty much perfect for the reference image, before erasing a bunch of unnecessary detail and honing in on the expression. I mentioned it in the Gibraltar video, but recreating a person's likeness in minifigure form is extremely difficult when they're just a normal dude without any like scars, unibrows, or like some tattoos to make the face visually distinct. So this ended up being a lot of trial and error, as well as playing around with facial hair and skin creases to try and get it looking like him. I eventually found it worked best with him clean shaven with some subtle creases each side of the eyes and mouth, and for some reason moving the eyes slightly further apart and the mouth slightly higher up just worked. In the end, it is a pretty plain face, but I think with the right hair and context that it'll work well. The next step was to add a hairpiece and, of course, his iconic Corsair Virtuoso RGB wireless SE high fidelity gaming headset. I added two of these headsets so I could erase one layer of the render to create a dual molded look, nothing too complicated, before playing around with a bunch of different hairs to try and decide on the best one. I narrowed it down to these 8 hairpieces and eventually decided that a combination of these two would work best, although in hindsight I think even just this one would have worked pretty well on its own. Next up was to do his torso print, and I of course decided to give him the Flash's story merch from a few years ago. I missed out on picking it up in real life, so this was the perfect chance for me to really relive the story by transcribing it word by word here. I really felt the emotions of the story on a deeper level in doing so this was easily the highlight of the figure for me. Next up was creating the background of the image. The stairs were the hardest part of this because I wanted to get those sideboards represented. These don't actually attach on the outside, instead it's a freestanding incline that connects to the floor and the back wall. Here's how I did the vertical beams for that. The steps themselves connect to the back wall with the 2x10 light nougat plate, and the white boards in between the steps attach in this way, which I honestly doubt would work in real life, but it does its job here. For the most part, I wanted to make sure that you could build this background in real life, so no shortcuts or cheating or anything like that. The handrail was actually pretty difficult, so I ended up attaching the 1x10 tiles to a single stud each on the wall and angling them so they lined up with each other. The radiator build is one I was really weirdly proud of. It attaches to a bunch of studs on the walls using these pieces mounted sideways, then each piece has the modified 1x2 plate attached and tiled off, and a 1x4 plate attached on the other end for strength. Repeat a few times and you're done. The YouTube plaque required me to create a custom print for it, so I went into Photoshop and did the best I could. I created a custom 2x2 tile with this print on it and attached it to the frame, which is made of black bracket pieces. The play button itself is a little inaccurate, but for this scale I think it's good enough. I added some stuff under the stairs as seen in this reference. Pretty happy with how I kind of gave each a unique texture. Turns out none of the effort was worth it in the end though, because the minifigure covers it in the final image, but what can you do? I rendered this in Studio because exporting the DAE file to Blender was causing a bunch of issues with the render, and I think the Studio render is perfectly fine. Unfortunately, this meant the lighting would be different between the background and the minifigure render, which is fine within reason because of streamer lighting and all that, but to get it looking believable, I added an overlay in Photoshop and played around with it until it looked right. Next was the Corsair neon sign, which I had the perfect reference to work off from this picture. I decided this would be a sticker placed on 2 large tiles attached to the wall, but Bricklink's parts designer only allows custom prints up to, I think, 4x8 tiles, so this needed to be emulated in Photoshop. I used a pretty makeshift method to get the neon glow effect, which was pretty much hand drawn, and I left a gap in between the tiles because that's how a sticker would look. I ended up redoing this sign later on, but your boy forgot to record the time lapse for that, so here's a before and after. Next was the heroic CSGO jersey he had hanging up by his stairs. Using the same UV map as always, I did my best to recreate all the details and everything. The gradients on the diagonal stripes were simplified pretty hard, and the heroic lettering in the middle was originally done by hand, but later replaced by the text tool in Photoshop because it looked really shit when applied to the torso piece. I originally rendered this in Blender with dual molded arms and a transparent lower half so that it looked like short sleeves, but I found the lighting just looked way off when placed in the studio background, so I again used the Bricklink parts designer to create a custom torso print to place in the scene and just render it there. This way the lighting would match up and not look way off. Unfortunately, due to the scale of the background, the torso piece looked way too small, so I had to do some forced perspective trickery with this piece so that it scaled right light in the background. Also, unfortunately, this meant that the shadows were just not there, so I had to paint them in by hand in Photoshop after the fact. This is the only area of the background that I felt I straight up cheated in, especially since the torso has no way to actually attach to the back wall. It needed to be there though, and I think it looks cool, so sue me. Finally, I did the Photoshop adjustments on the Teo minifigure itself so that the hairpiece and the Corsair Virtuoso RGB wireless SE high fidelity gaming headset looked like it sat right. This involved my usual method of adding multiple layers of slightly different renders into the project file and erasing any areas they shouldn't be seen. I also cleaned up some lighting issues before placing them into the scene. Finally, there was the mic stand. I created this microphone build in Studio before importing it into Blender so it could be rendered using the same lighting as the figure itself. I mentioned I had issues with this earlier, but this was seamless enough this time because of this video from Playwell Bricks that pointed me in the direction of this GitHub page for a custom Blender add-on that allows you to export Studio builds as LDRAW files, which import into Blender flawlessly. Like, genuinely, this add-on worked so smoothly, it's such a game changer. It even rendered properly first time too. I added the mic into the project file, and there you go, the final image. And I got it done and sent to Hobo with 3-ish days to spare. She called it cute, which was nice.
This is very cute. Is this 3D or is this... I think it's 3D actually. Look at the edges on this microphone. This is cool though. The Lego shit Teo's wearing. That's so cool. I really like this one. I really like this one too. Boop. I really like this one. This is the ones I vote for.
Alright, your boy Ryan. What the fuck? Oh, that's so nice. How the hell did you do this? Wait, how did you do this? Is this drawn, or did you use some sort of like 3D, is it like Blender? It must be some sort of Blender, like Lego. I don't know if they have like Lego presets. 3D modeling, yeah. Who did this? Oh, this is by your boy Ryan. Wasn't he here? I swear I read a resub from your boy Ryan. What does the shirt say? It's Flash's story. Is that the copy pasta story from R6? Yeah, man, I sold it as merch. Oh, I really like this. There's some... I love the variety, the juxtaposition between pieces. Can I call it that? Fuck, man. How the hell am I gonna choose between these? You know what I really like about this one? The detail of including in the back the like the green screen that I used to have under the staircase. Like this one's, he's really paid attention to the little things there.
So yeah, I'm happy out. Thanks for watching, farewell.